Welcome to World Gestures. Today's topic is about aeronautics and space administration. The Soviet Union launched Sputnik in 1957. For United States leaders, it was one of the chilliest moments of the Cold War, as the Soviets had shown technical capabilities far more advanced than their own and expanded the battlefield not just to the sky but outer space. A year after the Sputnik launch, President Dwight Eisenhower and the US Congress created the National Aeronautics and Space Administration in an effort to catch up and hopefully pass their Soviet rivals in the so-called space race. The following years, NASA launched a sequence of programs like Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo that would systematically check off all the steps needed to explore space. Mercury focused on getting a man into orbit. Gemini put two-man teams into a space to perform spacewalks, separate sections of spacecraft, and safely link them together again. Apollo headed to the moon, and our world would change. These were the glory days of manned space flight, and on July 20th, 1969, the scientists and pilots at NASA completed one of the most amazing feats in human history, where two human beings walked on the moon for the first time. The gallery below celebrates the people who made that milestone happen and who built on its success in the year afterward. 31 fantastic photos from NASA's glory days. Number 1. Before exploring space, NASA pilots gain experience in high altitude aircraft. Here, a step pilot looks up as a B 52 soars over the Mojave Desert. Number 2. Joe Walker, known as Cowboy Joe, leaps into a X 1A aircraft in 1955. Number 3. Neil Armstrong stands in front of the X-15 in 1959, a decade before he would become the first human being to set foot on the moon. Number 4. NASA astronaut Walter Schirra poses in his flight suit in 1959. Number 5. NASA scientists test a model of the Mercury capsule in a wind tunnel. Number 6. After traveling into space and spending 3 minutes in zero gravity in 1959, Sam the monkey gets a checkup. Number 7. Ham the chimp relaxes after his Mercury program spaceflight. Number 8. In 1960, Nancy Roman joins NASA as the chief of the astronomy and relatively programs in the Office of Space Science. She would go on to work on the Hubble telescope. Number 9. The Mercury 7 gather for a photo following the desert survival training. Number 10. In 1962, John Glenn would be the first American to complete a full orbit around the Earth. Number 11. Glenn's famous first words from space were 0G and I feel fine. Number 12. Astronauts built a fire as part of the tropical survival training near the Panama Canal. Number 13. Asian Kranz directs a simulation in 1965 at Mission Control in Houston. Number 14. Ed White and Jim David pilot the Gemini 4th mission in 1965. Number 15. Ed White becomes the first American to walk in space in June 1965. Number 16. Patricia David and Patricia White called their husbands Jim and Ed during the Gemini 4th mission. Number 17. After returning to Earth, White and David get a congratulatory call from President Johnson. Number 18. The crew of Apollo 1, Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Jeff posed for a picture days before they would be killed in a fire during a simulation, one of NASA's most tragic accidents. Number 19. Walter Schirra commands the Apollo 7 mission in 1968. Number 20. Jim David orbits the Earth aboard Apollo 9 in 1969. Number 21. The Apollo 11 crew, Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins and Buzz Aldrin smiled for the cameras in 1969, a few weeks before the launch for the historic trip to the moon. Number 22. President Lyndon Johnson and Vice President Spiro Agnew joined the crowds to see the launch of Apollo 9. Number 23. Buzz Aldrin gears up as Apollo 11 approaches the moon. Neil Armstrong took this shot. Number 24. Mission Control celebrates with cigars after the moon landing. Number 25. The Apollo 11 astronauts donned sombreros and ponchos during a parade in Mexico City a couple of months after visiting the moon. Number 26. Disaster almost struck NASA again during Apollo 14 failed mission in 1970. Here the mission control team celebrates the flight crew's safe return to Earth. Number 27. Alan Weaver, a NASA biologist, prepares for his 1970s joint project with French oceanographer Jacques Cousteau. Number 28. The rover's tracks lead away from the lunar module during the 1971 Apollo 14 mission. Number 29. The Apollo 14 crew poses in the lunar rover in 1972. Number 30. Astronaut Harrison Smith plants a flag on the moon in 1972. The Earth floats in the background. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe, do smash a like button and do share with your family and friends and do comment us what to be next.